there's a lot going on. A lot of it is clearly involving Russia at the moment. The short and long-term consequences of what we're looking at here, everyone's looking at the energy sector in particular. How are you viewing at least the short-term implications and what we're seeing going on at the moment?
So there's a couple of ways to look at it. I think the first thing is whether there's companies that have direct exposure to Russia. And as you may know, I actually worked in Russia during the last crisis, which was in 1998, 1999. And at that time, Russia was seen as this huge emerging market that was, coming out of the Cold War, and it was going to be, a really important driver for multinationals. And the quite sad thing is that when we went through, the multinational stocks that we look at, the global fund, the sales from Russia is generally 1% to 2%. So it's quite sad that in 20, 25 years, Russia failed to sort of develop its economy in that way. But to answer your question, direct exposure, so whether it's McDonald's, which has pulled out, or LVMH, which sells luxury goods there, or the auto companies that sells cars there, that's one thing to look at. It's generally very small. In our portfolio, the exposure is de minimis. The second thing to look at is, as you rightly mentioned, the energy implications. And we don't own any energy exposure there, but there's second order effects that people need to think about in terms of what does higher oil prices mean for potential demand destruction, what does it mean for inflation. I think that's an ongoing sort of a level of analysis that needs to be done. I think the longer term thing is what this means for energy security and energy transition in Europe, because it's kind of been a big shock to European policymakers. And while the oil price is high, that means that the differential between renewables and oil prices, and oil and fossil fuels has really closed. And obviously it's been a big wake-up call to Europe that they need to transition faster towards renewables. So we do have a sustainable fund, and we're looking at a lot of those renewable stocks for sustainability.